Welcome to another episode of the South by East podcast, where we discuss everything from the scriptures to music and everything in between.
Bam.
Brail, we're here, man. I think now it's been, it was before Easter, I believe, that the story dropped about Sean Combs and the raid on his house by the FBI. And at that time, like, no one, well, I won't say no one. A lot of people did not have a lot of the information, but as social media does what social media does, and it was a lot of stuff swirling, right? And man, it seems like more and more stuff is leaking out every day.
Oh yeah.
Like, what is this telling us about not only him? What is this telling us about just the music industry? Man, where do we go? Because I'm gonna tell you something. When I first found out, like, when I believe it was when the first video leaked about R. Kelly, and I didn't watch it. People kept trying to say, I was like, nah, I don't need to see that. But one of the things I did is I got rid of all my R. Kelly music because, and people said, why? I said, because if I had a daughter or a sister who was caught up in that, I would feel some kind of way for people who were still giving him money.
Right.
To continue doing what he's doing. And so, man, what does this tell us about him? What does it tell us about the industry? What does it tell us about us? And then, man, how do we handle this?
So I think it's important to understand there's usually these two groups of people, right? There's people who walk around with blindfolds and people who walk around with tinfoil hats. And we gotta be somewhere in between. We should not be shutting our eyes to the dangers of things that are happening, especially within the entertainment industry. I heard someone who's high up in the industry I talked to once, because I run in those circles because I work in that industry, who said, this is an industry of smoke and mirrors. The entire industry, movies, acting, music, all of it is built on veneer. So you would be crazy to think that somebody is not lying to you and how things are being presented. That is their job, to present something. But that doesn't mean that there's no value there, and it doesn't mean that everybody is evil and out to get your goat, right? And so it's important to see that and to keep and maintain that balance as we learn the facts. There was a video article that I watched, and I want to play just 1 minute of it because I really like the way that this person approached it and how they hit it, because I feel like he struck that balance between accountability and going, art is a reflection of self. And the art that we support is also a reflection of us as a society and as a community. These rumors about Diddy have been floating around for a long time.
Yeah.
And what happens in these situations is often that we start saying no Diddy because we want, I don't want to be associated with this person. Diddy is no longer a person. He's now a symbol for all the things that we see as wrong with society. And I want to say he's not like us. I want to say that he's not like me. I want to differentiate myself from Diddy, from these evil parts of society. But I also have to own the fact that even with all these rumors circling around, even with all this information that kept coming out, I, as a supporter of the culture, have continued to allow this to go on. And so it's important to see that balance. And I like how he approaches this. I want to check out just about a minute of this clip.
Like, it would make sense when you're hindsight's always 20/20. When you're looking back, all this stuff is like, oh, like this fool was really on one. Now, I will say this. I think one's depth of depravity is usually connected to one's access to excess. So Diddy's running around and he's playing with bees, billions. You're talking about billions. That's going to look different than the person that's only playing with millions. That's going to look different than the person that's only playing with thousands, right? And so I'm not trying to be this, but what I will say is that some of you guys, based on your browser history, would be doing similar things to Diddy had you been given the access.
Darkness.
And so you think that you are superior morally, but your browser history says something totally different. You've then dabbled into some bizarre stuff in your browser history that, like, had you been given the opportunity, you probably would have went off the deep end. And so what this does is, because someone is more depraved and deviant in their behavior, we then feel better about our sinfulness. But the only difference with a lot of this stuff is you just don't have the access.
I let you open up, Brail, and you spoke, and you probably saw me chuckle a little bit. Mm-hmm. The reason I chuckled is because my time in the scriptures this morning were in the book of Ecclesiastes.
Oh.
And
Okay.
most English Bibles translate this word that Solomon says over and over again as meaningless. Meaningless. Everything is meaningless. But the Hebrew word actually means everything is vapor. Yeah. You said that a high up told you that this whole industry is smoke and mirrors, but there's still value there. And Solomon is wrestling with everything is vapor. You can't, man, you go to grasp at it and it's not there. Yep. And so then he goes through this structured study of, okay, I'm going to invest myself here. I tried to do it in success in my career. I tried to do it in riches and house and relationships. Like, everything was vapor, but there's value in these things, but they're vapor at the same time. And so I chuckled because it's not just a music industry thing. It's not just a Diddy thing. It's something that we all grapple and struggle with, is dealing with the vapor aspect of life. And like he said, man, like a person's depth of debauchery is often connected with their access to excess. And man, that is so deep and profound about our own hearts.
And how many of us, we're not striving to end up getting our homes rated. No. But how many of us are striving to gain more access to excess? We want to be able to do whatever we want, whenever we want, less accountability. If I can make this much money, can't nobody wait till I get my money right. We want to be in a position where we can do whatever we want. And then when we see people get into that position, we see that the darkest parts of their hearts are magnified. And what if the darkest part of my heart was magnified and it became no Brail? Hey, yeah, I did this no Brail because the darkest part of my heart was able to come out and people were able to see it.
Let me tell you something. Can I tell you something real quick? Mm-hmm. The sad part, as much as I want there to be a counterexample, man, I haven't seen anyone able to get a big platform and just truly handle it well. Yeah. I remember, growing up, bro, there was two people. There was two people that it was hard to touch. Jesus Christ and Martin Luther King.
Okay.
I mean, as a young black child.
Yeah, oh, that's for sure.
As a young black child.
Especially every February.
Bro, there was no one beyond Jesus Christ and maybe Moses.
Yeah.
Who was
not the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King.
And bro, I remember when I finally got to the age when they were like, you know what? It's time for us to tell you
the myth. They destroyed the myth.
The rest of this story.
Santa Claus ain't real.
And I was like, oh man, you gotta be kidding me. Right?
Vapor.
And I felt like it was vapor, bro. Mm-hmm. You know that John Perkins is one of my living heroes. And right now, along with some of my other studying the scripture, I am doing a devotional series by him. And he shared this morning in his devotional series around forgiveness about how early in his marriage he was unfaithful to his wife, and how they had to work through that and work to forgive and love one another. And he wasn't a Christian then, and different things of that nature, and like this, and so, but he had to work through that. And he confesses that, and he tells about that early part of his marriage and just all kind of stuff. And so, man, it's like Andy Mineo rapped about this, about just like,
All of our heroes, yeah, not being real. Like,
yeah, like,
yeah.
and that's one of my favorite songs by him, bro.
And I think
And
the dopest thing about that is he calls it smoke in the air. Literally calls
yeah,
it smoke in the
yeah,
air. The song is called Clarity. The
yeah,
song's called Clarity. And I think he makes a good point even in that song of let every man be a liar, let only God be true.
truth.
And all of my heroes are frauds, just like me,
Me,
just like me, just like you. And it's like that's the thing that Diddy should absolutely be held accountable for his actions. 100%. Victims should be restituted. Justice should be brought about in those situations. But don't think that because Diddy got outed, that it doesn't excuse some of the behaviors and some of the desires and the deception in our own hearts. We have to be willing to hold ourselves accountable. And you talked about having a big platform. I was like, I can't find a counterexample of somebody who's dealt with it well. But I want to offer this, and this is just a thought. Like I'm not philosophizing here, but this is just a thought. I've made mistakes in my life.
yep,
I've made mistakes with the smaller platform that I have. If my platform is bigger, my mistakes are automatically bigger.
yeah,
So it's like, it doesn't matter what I do. If I'm at that level, if I made some of the mistakes I made in this last year, and I have not, I ain't been on no PDF files, I ain't been in that
no,
type of space.
yeah.
But if I had made some of the mistakes I made this last year at that level, it'd be a blow up. It'd be a blow up because your access is greater, man, and the temptation is greater. So you got greater temptations, you got higher expectations, you got higher, I wouldn't say accountability, but higher visibility. Man, it makes it hard. It
I,
makes it harder.
I,
You can't live a myth.
I told you about this. I remember graduating college, and when I graduated college, I was being flown around the country to all these different interviews. And two of my interviews were with the Dow Chemical Company. One of those interviews was at the plant in Plaquemine, Louisiana, which I've told that story before. How that was the plant I passed as an eighth grader. Said one day I'm gonna work for that company. And God brought me back to that place. A tremendous story. And then another one was in Freeport, Texas. And I remember at first I interviewed in Freeport. I had never heard, like, I'm from Texas, but I had not heard of Freeport. I always went to Galveston, spent some of my life in Houston, family in the Houston area. And then I left, and I flew into Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
And then you cross the bridge to go to Plaquemine, which I actually have family from Plaquemine. That's where my dad's father is from. And at first, when I saw the itinerary for the interviews, I was like, oh, for sure, I'm choosing Plaquemine because I'm going to live in Baton Rouge right by the LSU campus. And I'm going to be close to New Orleans or Nolens. And then
Knowledge.
and I'm going to now be an engineer. I'm going to have more money than I've ever had before in my life. And I'm going to live it up.
Yeah.
And there was something that happened during my time in the Freeport on the first leg of that trip that I prayed actually in my bedroom in the hotel room, and I was like, even if they offered me a job in Plaquemine, I can't take it because I can't handle being that close to some of my vices right now at this point in my life. I'm gonna have more money than I've ever had in my life. They're gonna give me a signing bonus. I'm going to have no one around me that knows me. No kind of accountability close.
Man.
And I just realized I can't handle that right now. And so I can't go there.
Yeah. Man, that takes some maturity, man.
I'm serious, and man, bro, and instantly when I moved to Freeport, like my first day at work, someone invited me to a Bible study at their church, and I instantly got plugged into a church. It changed the trajectory of my life, seriously. And man, I just look at it, and some of the things I shared, I'm gonna share at the end of this episode. I want to share some of the things I shared with some friends yesterday, actually.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those deals that is hard, man, but I think it's healthy, and I think it's something that is needed to be heard in there. And I said, in my life, I have found that the sign that I was ready for something was that it didn't crush me to not have it. If I got it before then, it always turned into an idol and led me further away from God. Then eventually to shame, which caused me to grow more distant from biblical community. Then weariness as I started the long walk back. I started praying, withhold it until I can hold it without it holding my heart. I mean, it took me years to get to that point, man, of just saying, hey, God, withhold this from me until I can hold it without it holding my heart. And that's the struggle, man. And a lot of times when you're in the industry, like, if you think about Puffy started as a backup dancer, bro.
Yeah.
And then the meteoric rise to now having billions of dollars. And the instant access to all these things, man. Yeah. He never had a chance for things to be withheld until he could hold it without it holding his heart. Yeah. And that's the dangerous part that all of us are in. There's some parts of that where it's easy for our families, for our jobs, for any of those things to become idols because often we get them before we can hold them without them holding our hearts.
Yeah, man. And that's a good word, man. And, man, as we start to wrap up this part of the episode, I want to be clear, man. I'm not saying that, definitely not saying we should protect abusers or any of that type of thing. I'm not excusing any of Diddy's actions or anyone that's in that position or people who are in high positions of power, because there is a higher call of responsibility. But what I'm saying is this should cause us to hold up the mirror and go, if I was in that place, what mistakes would I make? And what scaffolding, what accountability could I put in place right now that would allow me to step into the greater that could be in my life where I could hold it without it holding my heart?
Hey, I'm gonna take one more step. So until you shared that video with me, like, just because I don't follow that like that.
Right.
That's not I read a lot of different stuff, but I have no time for that. And I didn't know until I watched that video that you sent me, and I started saying like, okay, like here's another deal of accountability, like. So now, man, Christian brothers and sisters, like if you know someone has engaged in human trafficking, and they're using your stream dollars and different things of that nature to continue the lifestyle that allows them to do that, we have a responsibility. Man, part of loving a person means like not letting them continue and giving them the resources to continue down the path.
Yeah.
We have a responsibility in this, man. There has to be, we have to look at ourselves deeply. And I ain't gonna be, but I like the music. It's like, hey,
I like
fam.
the music. I like the movies. I like the books.
If this was your child, like some of the things I heard, like if this was your child, where you hitting on it? And so, is it okay if it's someone else's child and not your child? Because then we never get justice, we never heal, we never grow if we're only concerned or able to restrain ourselves when it's our child.
And anybody who's ever dealt with family members or friends who have addictions, like life-changing, life-altering addictions, you know that the least loving thing you can do is keep giving that person $20 every week. The least person, you might as well be the plug. Yeah. Like, if you really care about that person and want to see the best in them come out as well, if you want to see the great come out of the vapor, then the most loving thing you can do for that person is to hold them accountable. And for a lot of us, the only way that we can do that is with our streams, our attention, and our dollars.
And so here's the deal. I want you to hear us say this. We're not going to say you're a bad person because you don't make the same decision that we make in this situation. We say it's for each person to determine for themselves what they're being called to do. And a lot of people are asking the question, what should I do in this situation? And so we want to offer that. Like, here are words in that of, here's one course that you can take, but it's not the only course that you can take.
Right.
And it's not for us to judge whether you're good or bad because you agree with us or do the same thing we do. Right. That is between you and God. And so we want to make that clear as we close out this episode in the intersection. We want to hear from you on these things. How are you looking at your next step in light of these things? See you next time in the intersection.